Ha ha ha. A common assumption people make is that Marxist criticism will die on the vine of a deteriorated political system. That is absolute blasphemy.
Marxist literary analysis is not practiced by people who would like to see society transformed into a Marxist communist state. It isn't necessary for a communist political revolutionary to be classified as a Marxist literary critic.
I mean, some Marxist critics have actually fled communist societies. The thing about Marxist criticism is that it's not your traditional type of lens. Most criticism lenses try to uncover the hidden meanings that the text contains, but not Marxist criticism. They don't attempt to discover the hidden meanings in texts, and if they do, it's only after seeing the text, first and foremost, as a material product to be understood in broadly historical terms.
This quote-unquote complexity, though, is not found in the deeply buried meaning of the text.
It is that of a complex web of social and economic relationships that were prerequisites to the work's production.
Eagleton also says, Marxist criticism does not seek to be a passage from text to reader, but
to show the text as it cannot know itself, to manifest those conditions of its making.
That was just beautiful.
Marx created a concept that centered around the idea of a base and a superstructure. The base is the economy, while the superstructure can be law, art, politics, etc.
Now, important thing about the base superstructure concept is that there is a delay. Every change in the economic and social condition may not be reflected immediately by a change in ethics, literature, ideology. This is called homology. The mode of production of material life determines altogether the superstructure that the author lives in influences his or her writing.
The idea of a revolution when G.W.F. Hegel created the theory of a dialectical synthesis of ideas, which proposed the idea of a class war that would lead synthesis of a new social and economic order.
Basically, one idea and its opposite come together and create something simply amazing.
In other words, the norm and reality of that current given time.
Bowman says that the works of its time presents to the reader a grasp of what that time was really like.
Marxists read with the understanding that literature does not stand alone and that it bears no hidden meanings. It is dependent upon the historical moment in which it emerged.
Now, let's take Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, for example.
Although there isn't any clear indication of when the novel takes place, there is a slight hint that it took place a century and a half after the English Revolution, which was around the time the book was published. For all of you who don't remember, Charles I was kind of a tyrant. He made a lot of people unhappy. Just look at him. He may somewhat look handsome with that charming smile. But don't be fooled. Inside that calm composure, there is a monster.
Well, the only way to end Charles's rule was mobilizing the plebeians. That was the only way that the new elite could think of. But by mobilizing the plebeians, the elite had created a monster that it would soon fear.
Chaos ensued. The state went into anarchy. The mass was simply too strong to control, and the growing demands were too much for the elites to handle.
So the process of making the monster was never actually revealed. Only the effects, such as the death of the people that Frankenstein loved. Just as the people couldn't explain how the Enlightenment came to be initially, they only saw the effects.
Also, the monster is an artificial being created through the synthesis of body parts obtained from different individuals, just like how the proletariat mass consists of many individuals and how it was created through industry.
The working class had new needs and desires as it saw that the upper class had higher standards of living. This can be related back to the monster's envy of the de Lacy's family.
At first voiceless, through hardship, it will learn to resist the creators, Frankenstein or the high-class employers, through peaceful or violent means to get what it wants.
For example, Frankenstein's monster could even force his creator to satisfy his desires. I mean, he did call him a slave.
Those not of the working class are unable to understand the experiences of the working class. However, it can yield sympathy. Frankenstein did not feel sympathy after hearing his monster's miserable existence. Mary Shelley in effect shows us that the world she lived in through her novel Frankenstein. Although Frankenstein's world existed in the initial stages of the Industrial Revolution, there were no characteristics to suggest that there were any technological advancements.
Be like that. Frankenstein's world seemed like a rural one. Frankenstein's world seemed like a rural one that wasn't particularly industrialized. There are countless descriptions of natural settings, but there's never any of a modern city. Towns and cities seem to lack in technological advancements, and the only labor being done was by Frankenstein himself.
Frankenstein's work seemed out of place as he was the only embodiment of the Industrial Revolution in his world. This made his creation all the more monstrous.
This mirrors the working class that suddenly emerged during Shelley's lifetime.
The sudden change of the social order bewildered the status quo. The upper class slowly realized the potential dangers that this new class posed, and they wanted nothing more but to stop it.
They wouldn't listen to what the working class had to say. They tried to resist the working class's encroachment. They couldn't stand the thought of change because they had been so, essentially well off.
Doesn't this sound familiar?
Of course, there is an obvious resemblance between the conflict of the clashing classes and the conflicts between Frankenstein and his monster.
Thus, we can perceive that the developing capitalist society during the Industrial Revolution and progressing age of science influenced Shelley's thoughts and feelings.
The way individuals think and react to the world, artistically, politically, religiously, are impacted by the social conditions of their time.
Social conditions through revolutions may occur quickly, but ideology changes slowly.
In the base superstructure relationship, the base, that is the social condition, will change, but there's usually a delay in the changes of the superstructure.
Now, we can finally understand how Mary Shelley is inadvertently demonstrating this relationship through her novel, ultimately allowing us to see how she reacted to the changes of her time. Are we done? What are you doing? Why are you zooming in? Stop that. Cut it out.